So, by freak coincidence, this video also features LEGO in relation to Warhammer and tabletop gamings, which was not intended, but I guess it works out kind of serendipitously. Regardless, let's get into the video. So, I had this idea a little while ago after remembering that LEGO has this thing called Pick-a-Brick at its stores, where you fill up a cup with pieces and then you pay a flat rate for it. Here's a sort of example. The $100 Warhammer kit versus $17 for this. And we're going to see just how much terrain you can make for a single one of those cups, which you could of course buy multiple if you so desired. So here's what it looks like. It's got, your two sizes of cups and then a wall covered in different pieces. And basically what I'm going to try and do is see how much terrain I can get out of a single $17 cup. Of course, there are some other things to keep in mind, like availability of parts at your local LEGO store, if you even have a LEGO store. I'd recommend something like Bricklink if you want to emulate something similar. And also, when you're first building, I'd recommend just sort of sorting out your pieces as if you were building any other thing with LEGO. And for the first thing that I'm going to build here in a moment is actually going to be a pretty classic-shaped Warhammer piece of terrain in a sort of L-shaped ruin, vaguely inspired by this type of ruin here, as you can see here from the starter sets terrain. It's a very useful utilitarian thing, so I'm going to go for something similar here. And the great part about this being LEGO is obviously you can build it and break it down and rebuild it as many times as you want. Now, I've sped up the footage here, but in actual time, I'm still sorting out the pieces. But in actual time, this build, that I'll be starting here in a moment, only took me about, 5 minutes, I'd say, to assemble. And then, of course, if I didn't like it, I could just deconstruct it and build it into something different. At least, yeah, just go for a pretty simple shape here, using some tiles to sort of make the outline of the footprint a bit more obvious. Then I just sort of build it up, having a window on one side, using a Leagues of Votann model for scale. I also have that Chaos Terminator for the same purpose. Just keep them around to make sure you're building this so it can actually, house miniatures. And I just sort of keep building it up with that sort of crumbly L-shaped ruin that's, so common in every game we seem to play. And this is a video sort of long in the making, because obviously a lot of us play with, just stacked up books and cardboard boxes. But this could be a way to get a whole table of terrain for, $40 at the most. Of course, it's not going to look the fanciest, but I think it's quite effective and simplistic. As we'll see here, I'm just about done with it, using that model for scale again. I build up the rest of the wall and put a little accent piece on top, just to give it a bit more visual interest. And then I added a few greenery bits, just to add some color. So, yeah, that's just sort of the first piece done. And I still clearly have quite a large swathe of pieces where I built a couple pieces of scatter terrain by using some technically illegal building techniques for the barricades. But obviously, we're not a LEGO company. We can use illegal building techniques all we want. As we'll see here, I also used that greenery and a few of those sort of right angle pieces to build up some area terrain that could act as jungle or difficult terrain, something like that. You can see it there on the bottom. And then there are those two barricades I built. It's very simple. You just wedge a plate in between the studs, and then I added the two black plates to add a bit more visual interest. And then I started working on a slightly larger L-shaped ruin just to have a bit more variety, as well as to get that sort of mirroring effect you see in all sort of tournament play for terrain builds, or terrain layouts. Again, just build up the bricks, and this again only took me about 5 minutes. And just using simple colors like black and gray, it builds up pretty quick, and it's pretty just generic terrain. You don't really have to worry about painting it or assembling it or using your nice plastic glue or anything, although you could glue it together if you want. I prefer keeping it like this, as not only are they simple to put together, they're quite easy to take apart. If you want to build something different, say build one larger piece of terrain, or make more smaller pieces of scatter terrain. So this video was sort of spawned from my love of LEGO as a child, and just sort of wanting to experiment to see how I could get terrain, because terrain is something that I've always sort of had a tough time putting together for my Warhammer games, and I figured this would be a good way to do it on the cheap. That a lot of the stuff that Games Workshop sell in the big boxes are only about 1,000 points worth of terrain, like for that size game. But honestly, for the same price, you could probably get enough terrain for 2,000 to 3,000 points games, really. And really, it's just sort of a good creative exercise. And it's a good break from all the intricacies of building and painting models. Um, Here you can see me using my remaining pieces to put together sort of a large barricade. That could be, light cover or something like that, as well as just blocking line of sight. So this is just sort of a really simple video, but something I wanted to get out there because I think a lot of people, when we're gaming at home, we just play with, books and cardboard boxes stacked on top of each other. And I think this adds a certain, not necessarily realism to it, but it's a bit more interesting to look at, a bit more immersive on the tabletop. And it's also just a fun exercise, getting to play with Legos. Who doesn't like playing with Legos, right? And since it's so modular, it can really be used to make anything. Here you can see me completely changing the layout of this large barricade. And then from here, I think that's just about it. I think I have maybe one more thing. I'm just using my models here for scale. But that pretty much wraps it up. Again, it's this whole building project, putting all this terrain together, only took about 20-30 minutes once I sorted out all the pieces. And then here you can see me sort of testing layouts for a small game, like 500 points or something. You can see there's that sort of area terrain that could be like, I know it doesn't look dense, but like it could just act as dense cover, like woods or something. And you can see that it's a decent amount of terrain. Like, it's pretty much enough for a combat patrol. And then here you can see some more miniatures sort of posed up with it, with some orcs versus Alpha Legion, two of my main armies. Just sort of to show it all the scale and show how you can add elevation to your games very easily, which is something I really like. But anyways, my name has been Spoons Rattling. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.